Remember to chew?
She went to Prince today. Or, that's not Prince. That's me. Frank Sinatra. Can I go outside? How you doing? How's it going? Deal. 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 Oh. Super excited. What? What? Sorry. Sorry. Not for puppies. Not for puppies. Come here. Your water's over there. Not for puppies. Come here. Your water's over there. You want water over there? Welcome back. Another 7 days gone. I don't know about you, but for me, that was a flash. The routine I found myself in is fulfilling. So it seems like my time is bookended by this time. This is the only time that I really count. This present moment of being open, being sincere, being authentic. Now, Rise Up has been taking place for maybe 2 months now. And today I find myself without a message. And every week I sit here and share. There's no planning, there's no expectation. Sometimes it just feels right. And today, well, yeah, it just feels heavy. This is my third day of fasting. And if you know anything about fasting, it's after the third day you really start to gain a lot of the benefits. And leading up to the third day and the fourth day are when most of the psychological strain is exerted on, well, your mental capacity. After about the third or fourth day is where the benefits really start to kick in. And you get this vibrant, flowing energy. Now, being aware of that and having this not be my first fast, being present with it, it takes a lot of attention. It takes a lot of focus. In this moment, I'm realizing my addiction to food. How I just seek to imagine what I would do to go to the fridge and just pull something out and start munching on it. Like that sensation, that thought, it's very attractive. But I'm in this window right now where my body is converting to a different energy source. We're so used to eating every 6 hours, 8 hours, 4 hours, momentary, moment by moment, that we don't realize that the spikes in glucose and food that we're taking in it really is an addictive behavior that we've constructed that is not original to how human beings were once designed. Now, for the part of us that is animal, do animals eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner? They eat when they have the availability. They eat when they're hungry. We've reached a degree of mm, overabundance of availability where the frequency of which that we eat has dictated our behavior. Before we even get into what you eat, just when you eat is something that is not necessarily regarded as something that's very important. Eating first thing in the morning sets up the system within your body, the expectation of there being energy coming there. And then 4 hours later, 5 hours later, you eat at lunch. And then, another 4, 5, 6 hours later, you eat dinner. What you eat in those windows completely changes your psychology. Now, from personal experience, I've discovered that when I eat red meat, I have a different sensibility. I become more aggressive, more predatory, more sharp, muscular, though my desires are different. My expectations are different. The way I view the world is different. It's a more aggressive sensation. And for a long time, some of my favorite meals were meat, hamburgers, and steak, and ribs, all of these things that when you start eating them when you're young, you don't necessarily notice the difference. You may notice the taste because this obviously hits very clearly. When you put something in your mouth and you get all the sensorial feedback, the smells, the texture, the flavor, this imprints very deeply on your mind. Very deeply. And if it's a good feeling, then you want to go back to it. And this is what we've ended up with, where brands have effectively hijacked that mechanism of taste, of desire, of excitement. And they can show you things on television that are literally plastified, shown to you as fake representations, beautified falsely, so that your eyes can taste the food. You don't even have to experience the food before. The glisten of a hot steak or the melt of cheese, the fluffy bread of a bun. All of these things can be shown to you in a way where your mind and tongue knows, ooh, that looks like it would be an experience, an absolute experience. Now, we think right now with our mind in this instance, we eat with our eyes. We get excited. Our glands start secreting different hormones and different endorphins. And then we decide, okay, I'm getting in the car. I'm driving to those arches. All the way there, you're salivating. You're thinking with excitement and anticipation. This is foreplay. Ooh, it's going to be good. You're waiting in the drive through line. What am I going to get? Can I take your order? Please pull through the window. And they hand you a bag. Maybe a drink. What happens next? Well, maybe you start eating those fries as you're driving home. Maybe you pull over immediately and open up that bag. But what happens? You fulfill the fantasy at that point. The mental, psychological, experiential, sensorial moment is consumed. You eat it, you devour it, you enjoy every bite because it has been chemically organized in order to give you an experience from the brain to the mouth. That's it. But once it goes in your system and down into your stomach, what was, call it bread, call it beef, call it lettuce, tomato, pickles, sesame. What were all these things go into your system and your body recognizes it as something else, something foreign, something non authentic. And it will begin to digest these main ingredients into their base components and then distribute them for their purposes. Some will go to energy, some will go to mass, some will go to reconstruction, some will just be ejected, but everything gets reconstituted. Now, all of these individual components of these ingredients, they matter. They truly, truly matter. And they end up making up your entire matter. Every cell in your body has to come from somewhere. So we eat in order to have material to use. The quality of that material is of the utmost paramount importance. These genetically modified foods that we keep consuming are not easily or well identified by our body. And when they're taken in, the quality of the food that you are consuming, where do you think that goes? Where do you think that impacts? You've now surpassed the tongue and the mind, and now we're into a different subconscious arena where we've satisfied the fixation, the addiction, but now we have to pay the consequences. That experience, which has been sold to us and we bought, we got in our car and lined up in order to get, was not one that was for our net benefit, for our greater health. And these are the decisions that we constantly keep making in a fast society where business is catering to the lower instincts, the desires of humanity. the pleasures. We become hooked on it. Once we get that taste and it goes into the system, you also end up with the bacteria that feed off of that type of food. And then when you become hungry and your stomach begins to do its little cycle, that bacteria is what is sending the signal to your brain, which says, hey, go get more of that. Here's a reminder of the thing that we ate. We like this. And the cycle begins all over again. To think that these fast food companies have not spent millions, billions of dollars on identifying the chemical compounds that make you legally addicted. Of course they have. Of course. They're looking for cheaper, faster, more effective ways to get you hooked on their shit. Now, if you want the experience, go for the experience, but understand what you are doing at a higher level, at a deeper level. When you go and eat the fast food, the easy food, the convenient food, what are you sacrificing? What are you giving up? What are you foregoing? You're foregoing your own health and wellness. You're foregoing your ability to prepare your own meal and put the energy into that. When you cook, so they talk about in the East, this was a fascinating conversation that everyone seems to agree that when you stand over a stove and you mix ingredients together and you apply heat, there is a finished product that is greater than the sum of its parts. More than just the weight of the ingredients and the energy of the heat, there's the energy of the individual who prepared the food, who cut it, who weighed it, who looked at it, who stirred it, and what was happening in their head while they were stirring. Oh, this is going to be so tasty, and oh, I love the people that are going to enjoy this, and I'm so happy doing my work here, and oh, I can't wait for everyone to enjoy this meal. Or, I fucking hate my job. This is so annoying. My boss is annoying. Ugh, this woman at the drive-thru is annoying. I can't believe I have to do this again. I'm here. All of these thoughts resonate through us, emanate from us. And when we put our intention into the things that we do, our thoughts and feelings, our emotions end up in there too. So think about that as one more ingredient that's going into the special sauce. So when you go to a family get together and your family is cooking food with love and joy and affection and care, happiness, you're taking that in as well. That aura, that energy is entering your body. You're consuming that. It's becoming a part of you. This is one more reason why it's quite important to cook your own food. People go to the very dark edge and say, oh, if you knew what they would do to your food when you weren't looking. They don't even need to actively do anything to your food. They just need to not love it, not care about it, not respect it. No one needs to spit in it. by it being prepared by a soul that is not happy, not living its purpose, not joyful. You're taking whatever that energy is in. So, how do we recycle this? How do we reset ourselves? Well, I've discovered for me that fasting is a very powerful, spiritual, consciously connecting practice that allows me to reorient my relationship with the food that I consume and my physical form, my thoughts, all of my emotions around it. And when I do that, it's not easy, but the benefits, powerful, very powerful. For one, you remove the gut bacteria that loves to thrive on the things that you consume. If you're in a bad consumption habit of eating poor choices because you're attracted to them, then a fast is a great way for you to purge your system of those bacteria, starving them effectively so that they don't get the things that they like. They get nothing, in fact. Beyond that, just giving your stomach a chance to rest, giving your intestines a chance to rest. If you're constantly running food through them, or some of us, it's not even food, every 6 hours, when does your digestive system have a chance to relax, to rest, to just reboot? Thinking about how humans have thrived for as long as they have, do you think it's safe to assume that we always had readily available food? Was there always the equivalent of a refrigerator that you could walk to, open, and eat from? I think it's pretty safe to assume no. There would be a period of either waiting or gathering or hunting where you might not have full access to as many calories as you would seek or desire that would fulfill you. Now, how are we able to get through those periods if we weren't designed in such a way that we could thrive in those moments? If we skip a meal and all of a sudden we're useless for 48 hours, that doesn't help us achieve our goal of sustained survival, continued existence. If you skip a meal and you have trouble thinking, does that not seem like a addictive response? This is something that we should start to consider. A little bit of austerity practice goes a long way for you realizing what you're capable of. I had a client once He uh, he was Muslim, and during Ramadan, he would fast, but it was only a sun up to sundown fast. And at the time, I remember really feeling for him. He was a cook, and watching him work and not being able to taste his own food, his food was amazing. But watching him cook and not be able to eat, and then he would step aside for his moments of prayer and continue cooking. And during that time, his attitude was always very difficult. He was always, I don't have enough energy, oh, complaining and trying to be like connected with his purpose. But it affected his ability to think, to operate. Watching that, this was more than 10 years ago. I remember thinking, wow, this is so difficult, bordering impossible. I'd never seen something like that before. Didn't believe it was something that I could ever do. Why? You look at some of the cultural implications of why fasting during Ramadan is a way to get everyone together and get up early in the morning before the sun and wait for the sun to fall, and then you all get together and you eat again. It's a good practice. But then later in life, I met people who performed extended fasts, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. And this was a new reality. It's like, how? People that I met, people that I knew, people that I talked to. And this was, wow, how is that possible? There's an inclination to say, I could never, but as soon as you say that, well, you're trapped. So I decided to try for myself, just for me, to see what was possible. I did a little bit of research. I was looking up some of the benefits, some of the scientific reality of what happens to your body during a fast. Now, intermittent fasting has become quite popular. Good. It's an improvement on the hyper addictive food cycle that we've established in the West. But extended fasting, ooh, this is going to teach you about yourself. It's going to show you your weaknesses. It's going to show you the things that you're drawn to. It's going to test your mind. It's going to see what you think about when things aren't all peachy keen and just cruising along and there's always food coming on. I find myself the last day or so just in a bit of a mental fog. Song lyrics that I wouldn't normally sing coming to me. I'm like, I gotta get out of that frequency because I'm a thinker. I've learned this about myself. Not everyone has that drive. Not everyone has a very active mind, but I have been told I think too much, which hurt my feelings because it's not something that I necessarily had an idea that I had control over. But when you start removing the things that you desire, and a big one of those being food, your thinking really starts to change. At first, the happy thoughts are a little bit more seldom. At first, you might be a little bit ornery, a little bit frustrated, wondering when that next hit is going to come. If you're used to it, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks in between, that's what you're used to. That's what your subconscious body has gotten used to expecting. And when you do that every day, your body gets into a rhythm, into a habit, where it will secrete the digestive juices in anticipation of when a meal is coming, because it's in that cycle. Now, when you break that cycle or force it, it doesn't take long, a couple days, before your body realizes, wait, every 6 hours I produce the juice and nothing comes down. What what's what's going on up there? What's something else is happening. I should switch in the interest of protecting my existence. Let me switch gears into a more protective system in order to preserve the whole. And at this point, a process known as autophagy begins around the 72-hour mark. And this is pretty cool, in my opinion. Because the cells in your body are always splitting and dying, splitting and dying, splitting and dying. So there's always new cells being created and old cells going. But when autophagy begins, your body begins to seek out the weak, the maladjusted, the ill-formed, the unnecessary cells in your body. It identifies them on a DNA level and then takes them and takes the resources back from them in order to distribute to other parts in the body. And during autophagy, a process known as ketosis begins, and the liver starts sending ketones up to the brain, which are the ultimate brain food. So when that begins, not only are you not feeding glucose to the brain, now you're feeding this other protein. I believe it's a protein. Could be another sugar. Up to the brain for it to consume, and it loves it. So you end up with acuity in your senses. Your vision becomes more clear. Your sense of smell becomes more acute. Your taste, oh, everything becomes vibrant. You can taste the air. You can taste things across the room. Your hearing, your thinking, your motor skills, everything. Now, why do you think that would take place? Doesn't that seem counterintuitive? If I haven't been eating, I should be weak. My senses should be dull. My vision should get weaker. My physical form should get weaker. This is the lie that we've all believed, a limiting belief about how these divinely constructed bodies of ours work. The regimes that are shared with us by institutions, associations, who are funded and paid for by the same corporations that show you advertisements for stuff that they want you to get and eat frequently, buy frequently. So, why does the body become more acute? Well, it wants to survive. It's designed to survive. So, if I don't eat for a couple meals, for a couple days, and my body shrivels up and becomes weak, well, that's not going to help me find food. The opposite happens. If you don't eat for a couple days, all of a sudden you can smell food further away. You can smell the blueberries. What's that smell? What's that? You can see the colors more vividly so you can pick them out. Your brain becomes more sharp so that you can outwit whatever you need to in order to get whatever you need to get so that you can get the calories you need to eat. Your muscle strength becomes, in fact, better. Your endurance picks up so that you can get what you need. Just enough to keep going. That system is latent inside of us. It's available to everyone. But our quasi addiction to food, and bad food at that, has made it so that if we go without a meal and our mind starts to trail off and have those bad thoughts, that spirals into a worse situation. We get more aggressive, we get more frustrated, we get more short. And this goes back to the mind, having control over the mind and not believing your senses, not letting them create these attachments, being willing to let them go. It takes practice. It takes focus. It takes intentionality. But you can't develop any of those benefits of a strong willed mind if you don't do the practice, if you don't do the hard stuff. And that all starts with believing that you can, believing that you will, believing that you are. And not taking the outside data on face value, but seeing for yourself what you're capable of, listening to yourself, pushing yourself just that little bit more. So I think today is the beginning of something beautiful. Today is the third day of my fast. So I know, based off past experience, my own experience, good things come next. Body gets more sensitivity, smell gets heightened, vision becomes more clear, mind becomes more acute. And during this time, I'm not just sitting around watching television or listening to bad music. I'm compounding that with other activities, continuing to read, continuing to write, continuing to be creative, sitting and meditating, only spending the energy that I need to spend, spending it around people with good energy that reciprocate, not spending too much time trying to show off or let people know, hey, this is something that I'm doing. It's a personal practice, it's a private experience. And the benefits that come from it are uniquely for me. But I encourage you to try to figure out your unique practice and what's unique for you. Making the hard decisions to adjust your own diet, your own exercise, your own sleep schedule, the type of content that you might be drawn to but you reject, the applications on your phone that you choose not to use. And see all the time that you get back into your day when you make those decisions. Realizing that the food you eat at some point in the day, like pancakes covered in maple syrup with fruit, you're going to pay for that at some point with fog or lack of energy or clarity or something at some point later in the day. It might not be even today. But when you start to have a more conscious relationship with yourself, making conscious decisions every step of the way, you end up gaining more clarity, more self-worth, more self-love, more self-respect, more defined boundaries of what goes in and what comes out. Types of conversations that I know I would have, even with myself, if I was to go eat 2 Big Macs versus go eat a beautiful, fresh, organic salad. I know for a fact 2 different conversations would come out of me. Let alone the moaning and groaning of one experience versus the freshness and lightness of the other. My mind would literally tune into different stuff. The energy of what was in that would affect me and make me feel and think and say things that I don't agree with. I don't want to share, that I don't want to reciprocate. I don't want to emanate. I don't want to share that stuff. So it starts with, yeah, just being a little more conscious, just being a little bit more self aware. by not falling into the patterns that have always been thrust upon us or shown to us by our family or society. Figuring out the pattern that works for you, for your unique body, for your unique lifestyle, for your unique existence. Don't take my word for it. Don't take anyone's word for it. Go and try it for yourself. Take inventory and note of the things you put into your body. Be cognizant of when you put it in and how you feel sometime later. How you feel when you wake up in the morning. How you feel when you go to sleep. How well you sleep at night. All of these things are very subtle observations, but they have massive implications on our entire life, our entire well being, our state of mind, our expression of self. So that's it for this week. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. I look forward to sharing more about my personal experience and rising up with you and everyone else to a greater sense of self worth, of self awareness, self love. I look forward to sharing more with you in the future. So, have a wonderful week. Stay strong and be the better version of yourself. Ooh, we're done. What now? Oh, what? Oh, we're finished. What do we do now? Hmm? What do you think? Ooh, touch. Touch. Mm. Come say hi to the people. Say hi. Say hello. Over there. Over there. Look. Over there. Over there. Hello. Ooh. Ooh, uh. Have a beautiful week.